This is the Cubs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs Postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. My name is Joe George on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. And the Cubs win their first game coming out of the trade deadline, a 1-0 sprint. What a game. That was the fastest game of the year today, it feels like. But what a game to start the All-Star break, after the trade deadline. Look, the lineup didn't do much, but they did just enough, and Cade Horton was good once again in this game. So there's a lot to get through with Cade's performance. What we saw from the bullpen, we saw one of the new guys, make their day. Like we saw the new guys, we saw Ian Happ make a good play at the plate with the sac fly. Makes the catch at the end of the game like that. Definitely feel like on a day in which the wind is blowing out, that's leaving the ballpark. But so did Carson Kelly and Pete Crow-Armstrong's hits earlier in the game. All right, we'll start today's show off with our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
So I'm going to go Kade Horton here for Locked On Player of the Game today. 5 innings pitched, only 71 pitches. I think that's something that Cubs fans are going to have to get used to. The rest of the season, honestly, this year, I feel like that's where they're going to limit him. It's not by innings. It's going to be by pitches, and it might not even be every single start that he's out there, but only throws 71 pitches in this game. 5 innings, only gives up 2 hits, 3 walks, yes, but 3 strikeouts in the game. The Cubs only gave up 3 hits in this one, so they really shut down the Orioles. They said it there towards the end of the broadcast that the Orioles have scored 61 runs in their last 6 games, so this is an offense a lineup for the Orioles that, yes, looks a little bit different post-deadline, but has been hitting the ball very well, putting up numbers. And the Cubs went out there and they did their job today in this one. And that's what Cade Horton, for me, is why he's the guy. Now, yes, I would like to see – I'm excited for the future of Cade Horton to see when he can do this for longer periods of times. I get why the Cubs are doing it. You want to be safe with him, especially because – we'll talk about the deadline a little bit on the show because I have not had a chance to yet with you guys here on YouTube or on audio. But since you didn't make that big splash, we don't know who, in a game 3 of a playoff series is going to get the baseball. And it feels like Cade Horton, the way he's pitched of recent, is at least he's making an argument for himself. So 5 innings today, no earned runs. But these are Cade Horton's stats in his last 5 starts. 28 2/3, a 1.28 ERA, a 1.06 whip, and 20 strikeouts. And 4 of those 5 starts, he has not given up a run. It's 4 runs he gave up against the Twins. Besides that, his last 5 starts, he's been excellent. He has really been developing, I think, in front of us this year. And we talk about this a lot, but the strikeout numbers aren't quite where I think we would have expected them to be. But Cade has really consistently been, of recent, a very good pitcher for the Cubs. When you do think about the Cubs' future and what it looks like, and your starting rotation down the line, not just this year, but next year and going forward, Cade is an important part of that piece. And again, today against the lineup that had been very good recently and just recently got Adley Rutschman back as well, he went out there and did his job. Now, the lineup didn't do much in this game. I mean, Carson Kelly, PCA, they hit those cranks that should have left the yard. I mean, Carson Kelly is going to be one of the hardest hit singles of the season. But that thing is gone any other given day. It's not. PCA is probably the same thing as well. Dansby Swanson strikes out with runners in scoring position. That's we said after the last one we did of these that we were hoping Dansby Swanson's going to turn a corner, but it's unfortunate that he's really struggling again with runners in scoring position. Dansby is just not coming through with what they need him to do on a consistent basis. But Ian Happ gets the sac fly, and that's the difference maker in this entire game. There's really nothing else really happens. The Cubs have runners in scoring position a couple times. The big thing, I think this is fair point here from Mac here in the chat on YouTube. Great pitching. Offense still can't hit lefties. Yeah, that's one where of all the things that the Cubs have been doing this year that can go up and down and be fixed, it's the one that I think is going to be the most challenging to just wake up one day and see this team start hitting lefties. That is not something I feel like we should be expecting to change, unfortunately. Cubs 0209 asks, why was Castro not in the lineup against the lefty? That's a good question, but my guess is just you don't know exactly when, he got in to Chicago and things like that. So it's one of those where we don't always see the deadline acquisitions play in the first game back. My guess is it's more that it's more of just a rival ready to go, be a part of the lineup versus, being in there this day. Like the next lefty game, we're going to see Castro. I mean, it's part of the reason why you got him. I mean, this is a guy who's played virtually every position, outside of catching, pitching, and first base this year. And as people have talked about, if you can play third base, you can play first base. So I think we'll see Castro a good mix of a little bit of everything. And hopefully that can be something that pushes the Cubs lineup forward against lefties, because they do need some help there. Like we've seen the change at the top of the lineup, which I think was still a great move, having Nico at the top and Michael Busch at the top, depending on the matchup. But today you just didn't get much of it. Now, other guy, we mentioned Dansby Swanson, right? Dansby struggling with runners in scoring position. Couple people here in the chat saying this, and I will say I do have to agree. Chad says it here. Suzuki looks defeated. Yeah, that's the thing is you can tell he's frustrated. And players different. Like we see each Cubs player is a little bit different, right? Like we see PCA when he's struggling, bats flying, helmets flying, like there's real visible angle. Kyle Tucker doesn't have that in him. He's kind of more stoic at all times. But you can see with Seiya at the plate right now, he does look, I think defeated's a very good word for it. Now, worried? No. Streaky? He is. But you can tell that for him, he's kind of just going through it right now. And just needs to have a game or two where he just really gets it going. But he really is staring at a lot of stuff that is surprising. Like I think back to the Brewers game. I can't remember if it was the first or second Brewers game, but where he's just staring at strike three, and you can see it in his body language. He's kind of slumped over and frustrated, but he looks lost. So Suzuki's one where he definitely needs get a couple games going to get some confidence back in, because it looks more, just from the outside view, it looks more mental at this point in the season than it does anything else. And that's baseball. That's part of it. We all see guys go on these streaks, as Mark says here in the chat. He's second in the National League in RBIs, but he's just not playing good baseball right now. So it doesn't matter. The Cubs got the win, 1-0 against the Orioles. Got to win this series. Really get this thing back going, because again, the Brewers are hot. They're playing really good baseball, and they're in front of you now. So you got to see the Cubs just more consistently put this thing together on a day in and day out basis. That's what we're all kind of hoping for. And hopefully today, coming out of the deadline, is definitely going to be the start of that. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll get to your questions, your comments in the chat. We'll give my deadline reaction to what the Cubs did and did not do. So we'll get to all of that next here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Today's show is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. We just started talking about this. You know what I said? I need one of these to get through Jed Hoyer doing nothing at the trade deadline for the most part. Made a couple moves, but nothing big. So I used this to make me feel a little bit better yesterday, is the nicest way to put it. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse to go without chasing down the Bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is also not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. All right, questions and comments. Will says here, fly the W. Yep, good to see there. Daniel Palencia obviously gives it the double there, but back to himself. I mean, he continues to go out there and just perform on a really consistent basis. It is. They mentioned this too at the end of the broadcast. Like I think we all forget a little bit that this is a guy who didn't make the roster. And while one of the things, as we'll talk about here with the deadline, is it would have been interesting to see if the Cubs would have gotten like the Mason Miller pick or race that happened where the Padres got him. Obviously, Emmanuel Clase was not an option because he's dealing with some gambling allegations that are going on. But Palencia has really solidified himself in this role for the bullpen. You have your closer. And that's where I think the trade deadline conversation for me, like even watching today's game, like it's hard not to talk about like the deadline the day after. Like, supposed to be talking about the game here, but we got to talk about the deadline. It's good and bad. Like there's things that happened in the deadline that I'm very happy with the Cubs. Okay. I think Willie Castro is a really good move. I think Soroka is a good person to add to your rotation that even with Javier Assad and Jameson Taillon attempting comebacks, trying to get back to this team at some point in the season, I think that's good. But I think the highlight is obviously the two bullpen arms you've added, okay? The bullpen had been pretty good at points. Now, it is clear like they benefited from the weakest part of the schedule. Of all the things where the Cubs benefited, they benefited the most. And in the last month, in the month of July, they had the 28th, spot or 28th ERA in all of Major League Baseball. It might have been 29th, to be honest. But you're going to see that bullpen was like, it was falling apart. So they add two guys to it. And I think both those moves are really good trades by Jed Hoyer. They actually, it's not adding in the margins to fix the bullpen like he's been doing throughout this season. So I like the 4 trades they made. I think they did a good job. I'm going to grade those deals on surface level, I would say B+. Like good depth, good bullpen arms, extra arm in the rotation to help you. Like instead of having to do these bullpen games, waiting for Taillon and Assad to come back, like and like we'll see who falls out of the rotation and goes back in. Because of these bullpen moves, you move on from Ryan Presley, which I think was the right decision to make because he was struggling. The analytics on him were not good this season. So all of that is positive, right? But I still feel like the Cubs left a lot to be desired. Now, try to be nice here, no one got Mackenzie Gore. No one got Joe Ryan. No one traded for Alcantara or Edwards Cabrera. Nobody traded those, right? For those guys. It's not like the Cubs got outbid. They didn't get moved, which to me means, and Dylan Cease didn't get moved, and he was nearly traded. That to me means the market was ridiculous, that they were all asking for way too much, and that's why none of them got traded. However, I still would have liked to see the Cubs go all in for a starting pitcher at the deadline. I think the Cubs are absolutely a better team today, August 1st, than they were on July 31st. They absolutely are. But I think we all just wanted to see the Cubs do a little bit more than what they did. Now, Matt Shaw, Owen Casey, Moises Ballesteros, all guys who were rumored to be in these trade conversations that the Cubs clearly didn't want to part with. And frankly, some of them I didn't want them to part with. Specifically, like if a team wanted, like Mike says here in the chat, and I saw the same thing where like Owen Casey and Ballesteros were both being asked for in a trade with Mackenzie Gore. Like that to me would have been too much, even though Gore is under control. So the thing is I want to be angry, but it's hard because they didn't get moved. But I also feel like there's still a lot to be desired with what happened at the deadline. That the Cubs could have put themselves in a much better position to go for the World Series this year when Kyle Tucker is going to walk off. And Jeff Passan said in an interview late last night that Kyle Tucker, he said he would say that is the betting favorite is the Cubs right now to keep Kyle Tucker. And I think that's great. But I still, for this deadline, in case Kyle Tucker's not back, would have liked to see it. And then, frankly, like I think in the offseason, like that's where I saw Sam tweet this. Like in the offseason, like you got to make your moves in the offseason because if the prices are going to be too ridiculous in season, then you failed in the offseason. I think that to me is the ultimate lesson about what happened with Jed Hoyer at the deadline is he didn't do enough in the offseason to address these issues because then at the deadline, it became too expensive. He was being responsible with his prospects. That's all fine and dandy. But in the offseason, he just totally missed the mark. Kevin says here in the chat, it just doesn't seem like a right now mentality. Yeah, that's the other thing too. And I don't know if Jed's contract, like how it really factors in. I know on Marquee, like he said, it didn't factor into his approach. it's hard to get a read on like what did and didn't matter because he just got locked up for a handful of years and he's got some security now, but he just didn't do anything splashy. And so we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see like how the rest of the season goes for the Cubs. But with Boyd and Shota leading your rotation in the playoffs, I think you feel good. And then you have to see what happens next. Colin says here in the chat, he was not counting on Steele to not get injured. Look, that's totally fair. Okay. My counterpoint to that is every single team has guys with Tommy John. You have to prepare for it now. Like you have to. It's become an epidemic at this point in Major League Baseball where there's so many guys getting Tommy John that you have to be prepared depth-wise to be able to handle that happening. Like it's just the reality. And you also have to have like guys in the system to come up and impact this team in a way that the Cubs, besides Cade Horton, don't really have at this point yet to fill into the rotation. So yeah, disappointing deadline, still a good deadline, but just didn't have that splash I think that I wanted, and I think Cubs fans obviously clearly wanted as well because they wanted more, and I think rightfully so. But the Cubs start the post-deadline part of the season. The final stretch here is really now underway as the Cubs win 1-0 against the Baltimore Orioles. I will be off for the show tomorrow. I'm going to see Go Danny with my son. So I'll be back on Sunday with you guys here. Matt and Sam will be back on Monday as well for their typical show. So thank you guys for watching. Talk to you on Sunday. Peace.